At least once a month, she would be ritually unclean. Bleeding is not sinful. It's just ritually, it makes you unclean. Why? I suspect, okay, I haven't studied this theologically deep, all right, but I suspect it has to do with the holiness of blood. When you trace blood in the Bible, like there's one reason why we don't eat blood, right? From Leviticus on, because it's holy, because it's the one element of reconciliation between God and man. And I mean God and humanity, right? Because it points to the blood of Jesus. And that's why even the church in the New Testament, they tell the Gentiles, don't worry about keeping the law. You don't have to keep the law except these things. And one of those things is abstain from blood. All right? Whether that's from eating blood or shedding blood, it's holy because it all points to Calvary. Are you with me? So, because a woman, at least once a month, would be ritually unclean, and it's going to be different for this woman and this woman and this woman, because they're not all chronologically synchronized. I don't know why they don't do that, but they're not synchronized. All right, so notice this, and I said that tongue in cheek, right? You understand that? All right. In Mishnah, it says the observance of all the positive ordinances. Positive ordinances are like do this, as opposed to the do not do this, which would be the negatives, okay? The observance of all the positive ordinances that depend on the time of year is incumbent on men, but not on women. And the observance of all positive ordinances that do not depend on the time of the year is incumbent both on men and women. What does that mean? There are certain celebrations that have to happen on certain occasions. Like Sabbath is every seventh day, no matter what. Pentecost is going to be on such a date, no matter what. A new moon is on that such a date, and no matter what. Okay, well, the priests don't worry about being ritually unclean because they don't have to worry about when that time of the month is going to come for them. But if there were women priests, then they would be like, oh, I'm not going to be able to, even though I'm on the schedule, because, right? And so that introduces a shifting. And that's why it says, okay, the things that are based on calendar, the women, they're not obligated to do them. All right? So if it's Pentecost and you're ritually unclean, you can't go celebrate it, the law will allow you to celebrate it 1 week later. And you can still celebrate it, but you don't have to be there. So you're not sinning if you're not present. That's what it means, right? And then there's other ordinances that they're not dependent on the calendar. So those, both men and women, are obligated to do because they're not dependent on the calendar, all right? So rather than being something negative or a put down on women, it's just being practical as far as the holiness of God, the holiness of blood, and so on, okay? It seems that's the reason why. But then this introduces that poor woman with the issue of blood, who she's not looked as a sinner, or at least she shouldn't have been, but she is ritually unclean. She is not fit to participate in the meeting at the synagogue. She's not fit to go and take a sacrifice because she cannot enter into the courts of the Lord with that issue of blood. And okay, it may just be me, but the fact that she can touch Jesus and not make him ritually unclean, and that contact actually purifies her ritual uncleanness and makes her fit now to go to the temple, to the synagogue, or whatever she needs to do, I think brings about, and this is just me, okay? This is not doctrinal. Pastor can correct me on this, all right? But I think it brings about a new age when your contact with Jesus makes you acceptable in the house of God, no matter what time of the month it is. And so Jesus changes everything. And that's the New Testament perspective, where we could still be bound with this, but now that His blood has been applied on us, His blood renders everything clean. And we have the freedom to worship Him. And to me, that's like, whew, wow. And so you may have wondered, why is this in the Gospels, right? And I'm like, this is why it's in the Gospels, because this makes sense of so many laws in the Old Testament that suddenly in the New Testament we don't worry about them anymore, because Jesus has come to make a new creation and to change our relationship to the holy things of God, because we participate in His holiness. As we touch Him, we are ritually clean and we can enter into God's presence. I think that's powerful.